Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
Hello and welcome to WrestleRamble. This is Luke Owen, I'm Oli Davis, and today we're getting to a few of your crap gimmicks. We're going to be diving into the mailbag to find out who the greatest wrestlers to have never held a top title are, and we're also going to be looking forward to Survivor Series. If you want to go straight to any of those conversations, click the timestamps in the video description below or stay right here where we are going to talk about what we did at the weekend. What did you do at the weekend, Luke?
Wedding stuff. That was more or less what my weekend was. I went to go see the florist. I had our final meeting with her. She's a very good friend of mine. Actually, I went to school with her, so that was quite nice to have a little bit of a catch up. And then I was just doing wedding admin. It's I'm 3 weeks out from getting married. This stuff's just got to be done.
This is all Luke talks about in the studio.
When I
politely say, "Oh, how was last night? What did you do last night? What did you do over the weekend, Luke?" And he just, wedding admin.
You make it sound like I'm upset about the whole thing, though, whereas actually I quite enjoy it. Yesterday I got to spend the whole day in front of Photoshop while I was designing our order of service and our table plan and things like that. It's just exhausting.
That's not what you told me. You said, "I've made a big mistake. I should have chosen you as the best man, Ollie."
Well, I mean, I'm not making that mistake. Although, best wishes out to my best man, who is currently in Vegas at the moment. So, best of luck, mate. I hope you're okay.
I can't even be jokey about that.
No, I know.
That is serious.
It is serious.
Should we get on something that definitely isn't serious?
Let us do that. Let's alleviate my mind from things.
Let's disappear into frivolity to ignore the wider world, and that is your crap gimmicks. We haven't done crap gimmicks for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. It's because we had so much to do with, like, we've had reviews, we had No Mercy. Was it No Mercy?
It was
No Mercy.
Or Backlash.
Whichever one it was. And we had a big mailbag episode. We've had so much fantasy booking and warfare. We just haven't had time to get through to some crap gimmicks.
Yeah, so, and for everyone who doesn't know what a crap gimmick is, it's something that Vince McMahon could conceivably sign, but everyone else will hate.
Yes.
And that's the criteria we're looking for. It's got to be a gimmick that's so bad, but not bad that it will get over with us. It's going to be pretty goddamn bad. So first up we have Brandon Powell via Patreon. A 3-person tag team consisting of 2 regular wrestlers and 1 midget. Are we allowed to say that?
Within the terms of wrestling, I believe that is fine.
Are we allowed to call people of average height regular wrestlers?
I think you're trying to make a PC point, but
I know. I genuinely don't know. Yeah.
But I believe
just storm ahead.
Within the wrestling world, the term midget is seemed fine. Okay. Little person wrestlers are fine being called midgets. So.
Cool. Well, that's good. Each man. Well, you see, the rest of the gimmick now is playing on. Okay, let's see what happens. Each man would have an irrational fear of the number 3, and therefore they would always break up their own pins and never win matches unless by accident. In the weeks leading up to their debut, there would be corny dramatic vignettes for each man describing why they're scared of 3. Also, their team logo on their gear would just be the number 2.5.
See, now this gimmick sort of works in the sense of, especially within your world where you have the Trios Championship. What was it called again?
It was just called the Trios Championship.
It was just called the Trio Championship.
3-man tag. So
what? 6-man tag.
Yeah, don't Ring of Honor call it the 6-man tag?
They do call it the 6-man World Championship, yeah.
Yeah, because I guess they're 6-man matches.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with the honour.
Trios Championship, we can always go with that. But in your world of Trios Championship, this group, as a comedy group, could really work, where you have 2 regular-sized, I've done that in air quotations, regular-sized wrestlers, and a little person wrestler, and that could be quite funny, especially if it's like a hornswoggle just running in and out. The way this gimmick falls down, though, is they're scared of him, because if they're scared of him, why are they a tag team with him?
No, who are they scared of?
Number 3. So they're always breaking up their own pins because they're scared of him.
No, they're scared of the number 3. They're scared of 3 as a number. I think that's why there's 2.5 of them.
What? Each man would have an irrational fear of the number 3. Oh! So they're breaking up pins because they don't want to hear 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm with it now.
And that's why there isn't 3 regular, and air quotes for podcast listeners, wrestlers there. That Brandon Powell has written out.
And that's why they're 2.5. See, I preferred it when it was just they were called 2.5.
You thought there was a man called number 3?
Yes, that's
like
that's
number 2 from Austin Powers.
Yeah, or
the
Rock Profile skit with the Bee Gees. Do you ever see that one? Yes, yeah.
And it's not getting over with me. I don't think it's either good enough or crap enough. It's in that weird bit in the middle where it's just a bit nothing, and potentially not worth the offence, it might cause. Possibly. Next up from Barnaby Weatherall.
Great name.
Barnaby.
It's a quality name, isn't it?
That's a good name. Via Patreon, Barnaby has also got a quality gimmick. I really like this one. Here we go. His name is the Beastmaster, and he has the spirits of 5 animals inside of him: a dog, a bull, a tiger, an eagle, and a dolphin. He comes to the ring dressed as a different animal for each match. For example, if he was a bull, then he would come to the ring in an outfit similar to that of the Mantor. When he embodies an animal, he acts like that animal in the ring and makes that animal's noises when he is getting psyched up. The problem is, he can also be beaten by stupid things. Like when he is a dog, he gets distracted when someone sprays water on him or tells him to sit.
See, now that is a pretty crap gimmick that's kind of packaged within something that's pretty good that you can work into storylines of just like, we don't know which side of the Beastmaster we're going to get, almost like the 3 faces of Foley.
Yeah, but really, that's what the announcers have been told to play up, but no one in the audience will care because they will not. This is like undercard stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can see Vince going for it because he does have that weird obsession with the supernatural.
Yeah, he is very much a part of the fantastique. So yeah, he would probably very much enjoy that. I quite like that as a crap gimmick.
So it really does work as a crap gimmick because I think, I could ironically like it up to a point, but the last line is what kills it dead in my mind for me because I can't remember the match I saw, but I did go to a independent show once where the guys...
Brag.
Yeah, I go to independent wrestling, where one of the wrestlers was his gimmick was sort of a mad dog, came in on a chain, and he would get distracted by throwing the ball and fetch.
Okay.
I think it was against Colt Cabana.
Well, that would make sense if it was against Colt, yeah.
So it kind of worked, but it never really clicked for me because I just thought sometimes comedy goes one step too far.
Yeah.
And that's weird because I've seen slow motion wrestling match spots and I have gone crazy. That infamous one where they've had the whole zombie trance dance.
Yep.
I love that.
And you were very excited to show me the Kenny Omega, the hop across the ring, being like whipped against the rope and going back on one leg.
So for some reason, I don't know, I've got no hard and fast rules
I think
here.
just like Kenny Omega.
There's that.
Because you probably really enjoyed it. You're the opposite of Jim Cornette and really liked him wrestling a blow-up doll.
Yeah, and that's remarkable. Have you seen the Kota Ibushi match with the doll as well?
Yes.
And they've got the I don't know what you call it, the Japanese people who dress in black and they articulate the doll so it can jump off things. Yeah.
I don't know what their technical term is.
But yes, these so that last bit about him being a dog and possessing the flaws of whatever bit they're in, that really does kill it for me. So I think this has potential.
It has potential. A little bit of reworking, and that could be a proper crap gimmick.
What would you rework?
Just that last bit, to be honest. It's just that last bit of just that he takes on so much of that animal, then he can be foiled.
But that's what makes it crap.
No, actually, I think that what makes it crap is that he comes out dressed in naff costumes and starts making animal noises. That is a crap gimmick. That is someone who can never get beyond a certain level.
Definitely. It will kill any wrestler's career. Mm-hmm. But that also has the potential to get ironically over, as it would do with me. And I think this ticks both our boxes because that last bit will make me hate the first bit.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So I'm fully up for signing this guy.
I mean, I'm up for signing it as well. As I said, I think there's a little bit of tinkering to be done, a little bit of we put this into the room, the creative writers' room, and we can work some stuff out for him. Also, how would you foil a dolphin?
Oh, yeah, they're smart.
I mean, it's been a while since I've played Echo, so I can't really remember. I mean, there's a big octopus at one point that you've got to sneak past, but working that into a wrestling show is a bit hard.
I guess overfishing. That horrible practice where you just bash their brains in.
I was actually going to say more like the ring pause that you get beer cans in.
Yeah, isn't that mainly seagulls?
No, I think dolphins can get trapped by it as well. It gets trapped around there. Is it a bill or is it a beak? It's a beak, I would have thought.
I don't know. But yes,
I'm not an animal person.
Barnaby, I would like to sign the Beastmaster.
As would I.
Okay, so we're signing it.
Yeah, we're signing
Wicked.
it, yeah.
Okay, he's joined the crap roster gimmick. Roster,
gimmick roster.
The crap gimmick roster, whatever it is. Matthew via YouTube says, and crap gimmick Mark Indy. This is going to be meta. He is a mockery of the usual indie wrestler. He does everything an indie mark would want from a match, but does it rubbish or botched. He misses all his dives. He botches his dives to the outside. His strikes would be hard as nails if they landed. When he does hit a big move, his opponent gets up before him because it causes so much damage to himself from landing the move. His finisher is the least protected move in the company. Everyone kicks out. Roman kicks out at 1. His entrance music is a rip-off of a song that WWE don't have the rights to, and his t-shirt is filled with all the common indie chants.
Now, if he was going to be a real indie wrestler, he would come out wearing a band t-shirt.
Yeah. Indie marks. So I think... because one of the criteria of this is that Vince McMahon would entertain it as an idea, and so much indie stuff is going on at the moment that's not hurting WWE, but it's taken a slice of the wrestling audience pie. That maybe he would be petty enough to make an indie wrestler like this.
I 100% agree with you. This is the sort of thing that would very much tickle Vince's fancy because it is poking fun at the stuff that the audience likes. And so that he does these dives, always slipping on the ropes because he's an indie mark and he botches everything. Jim Cornette would probably find it hilarious as well. I could see this very much getting over with Vinnie Mac, and the audience would hate it as well because we are wrestling fans who like this sort of style, and it's essentially making a mockery of that, and that in and of itself it's very awful.
He would also never win a match, and he would always be put against physically very impressive wrestlers, and he himself would be, I don't know, 112 pounds dripping wet. That sort of thing. Long straggly hair.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Jean shorts, 3/4 length jean shorts, especially if you're going to make him look like an indie wrestler from the 90s.
Yeah, because that's what I've got in my head.
Yeah, that's what I had in my head
grungy.
Too. Yeah, and I said, basically, I mean, I don't want to say he looks like Raven, but he looks like Ray Raven.
Or he looks like me as a fan at that age when Raven was popular as Raven.
Raven's look so popular, Just Incredible copied it.
I think this has got potential
again,
too.
And I think you just remove some of these things out of it, like his strikes would be hard as nails if they landed. You drop that bit, and if he does a big move, his opponent gets up before him. You just kind of drop that.
I like that bit, such a crazy top rope move.
Yeah,
that it takes more out of him than it does the other person.
But I think it'd be I think it'd be funny if he never hits those sorts of moves though, or he attempts them and just slips and So really, anytime he does do a big move, he never gets it right. He almost saboos it.
He never gets it right. Yes. Until he finally hits it.
You build that story.
The crowd go crazy, but the guy kicks out at 1. Yeah. That's what you do.
That's the story there.
That's the payoff. That's the end of the gimmick. And it goes off into the sunset. So I mean, usually I'm pretty harsh on these, but I want to sign Mark Indy.
I like Mark Indy as well. This is the sort of thing that Vinnie Mac would love.
Yeah,
he's in.
He's in alongside the Beastmaster,
which is also a great wrestling name.
Can't wait to see that match. and then finally, a random guy, that's their actual name on YouTube, has commented, "My crappy gimmick idea is a guy that thinks he's part of the arena. Long story short, he dresses as an object in the arena every week. He doesn't wrestle, he doesn't cut a promo, he just grabs the object he's wrestling as.
He's dressing as,
yes, and never lets it go until the end of the show. I.e., first week he dresses in black as part of the barricade, second week he dresses in white as part of the ring mat, the best, third week, he dresses in red as he's part of the rope."
It sounds just more like a spot than an actual.
We had two very good ones.
Unfortunately, this is not a high to end on.
It's I mean, I see where they're coming from because there's a rich history of things turning out to be the attacking wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
The great, it always happens, the camera guy in the ring. Oh, it turns out to be Dean Ambrose, usually. Yeah. Throw a rock and you'll hit Dean Ambrose dressed up as a security guy.
Being wacky Dean.
Yeah, and then they attack them out of a surprise. I guess this is just a more inanimate way to do that.
Yeah, so when he's dressed in black, he's just essentially just pressing himself up against as if he's part of the barricade, and then hopefully he wants to use this as a way to sneak attack his opponents, only they always know that he's there.
Yeah, It's yeah, I think it's one. It's like one beat in a story,
and it only really works that first time. It only really works as the barricade. It doesn't really work as the. Well, maybe it does work as the
barricade.
Yeah,
he's got to stand. No,
so it does work as the barricade. I'm not sure it works as the ring rope.
Yeah, the ring rope would be very tricky, but maybe that's where the comedy comes from.
Yeah,
he's just dressed all in red,
just holding
on to the bottom rope.
There's something there, but I think it is more of a spot than anything else.
I agree. We're going to talk about some news.
See, this is something else we've not done in a while. Done a news-based episode, and I like doing the news-based episodes.
Yeah, so we both decided to talk about the Young Bucks versus WWE friction.
Yes.
Potential, I guess lawsuit, legal threats. We
Cease
can chuck
and
big words out
desist.
there. Yeah. So this all started last Monday when the Young Bucks, along with Marty Scurll and Cody Rhodes,
and Hangman Page.
Oh, yeah, sorry, and Hangman Page.
Everyone always forgets Hangman.
And Brandy. All right, then, if we're going to name everyone. And a Stretch Hummer. They all went over to... They were nearby. I think they were in Las Vegas for the Ring of Honor show before Dishonor on Friday night. And they flew over to the... what was it? The Citizens Business Bank.
Yeah, the Hot Topic.
Yeah. And that's where Raw was being held. So they were like, we're going to march 10 minutes down the road and invade Raw.
Now... Okay, so this whole thing is just like it's their attempt at doing what DX did back in the 90s when they invaded WCW. Difference was WCW were actually holding a show at the point when they were doing the invasion, whereas this Bullet Club one felt they were doing it about 10 hours before the event actually started.
It was early afternoon.
Yes, there were 15 people there. So it didn't really feel like that much of an invasion. I'm not knocking the video because I thought it was very funny and it was very entertaining. But I think part of the gimmick is that it's meant to be a naff invasion.
Yeah, definitely. The opening.
But the way that it was put around by people was like, oh my god, Bullet Club invading. But it's not really.
Who would do that?
Who would do a thing like that?
A thumbnail with Bullet Club. That's what it was. That's what they called it. The opening bit was Marty Scurll marching into shot just like Triple H did.
He even did Triple H's lines.
Yeah, dressed in camo, and everyone there brilliantly was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I was doing the DX bit. And he's like, I've never heard of that.
We watched it together.
We watched it last week. So that was fun. It's very funny being the Elite. And then, what was your favourite bit? I really got a kick out of one of the Jacksons, one of the Young Bucks, just shouting in a megaphone, "Give us back Finn Balor!
Yeah.
We're going to come and rescue you!"
That was good. Although I particularly enjoyed the Independence Day speech.
That was very funny.
And in particular, because I know that film almost line for line off by heart because I love it that much. But as soon as he started doing it, I was like, he's doing the Bill Pullman speech.
This was Cody. Cody stood up amongst the crowd.
But it was funny because there was a bit, you could tell there was a lot of murmurs in like the 15 people that were there, like, I don't know what this joke is. And then after a while, picking up like, oh, it's that speech.
I think there was about 40 to 50 people there. It was a sizable crowd.
I'm being a cynic.
Okay.
And but then you had the conversation between the Bucks and Brandy, just being like, "Is this the speech from Independence Day? Just let him do it.
Just let him run with it."
Yeah, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that was very good. However, WWE did not seem to find the funny side in it.
No.
And 2 days after, Wednesday morning by all accounts, the Young Bucks got sent a cease and desist letter from WWE about the too sweet... we probably should blur that out. The too sweet hand
we're not in
gesture.
trouble for it.
Yeah, well, we're not trying to sell merchandise with it.
Yeah.
So WWE had trademarked the too sweet hand signal with the too sweet, because you can't just trademark a hand signal, can you?
No, I think it's in conjunction with that. So Gene Simmons had this.
Yeah.
He tried to trademark the devil horns last year, I think it was. It might have been the year before. But he tried to trademark that because he claimed he invented it until people there said, "You're an idiot. You can't trademark this." Yeah, so that's... It's like when Taylor Swift tried to trademark the letters TS.
You leave Tay-Tay alone. Why are you always trying to bring in your anti-Tay-Tay agenda?
Is an awful human being.
She's not. She's a saint. And so I guess the problem comes when you have the hand signal with the too sweet on a piece of merchandise. That's when WWE are going to go, oh, we actually own the trademark for that. They did so in 2015 when they brought over Finn Balor, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, presumably because at one point they thought, we're going to get the club going. We're going to get a proper club going.
They did for a bit. No, that was with AJ Styles. Sorry, my bad. Yeah,
because Balor went straight to... Then that was the year before, wasn't it? So, anyway.
Anyway.
So WWE claimed to own the trademark. And this dates they argue their case goes all the way back to the NWO in WCW and the Clique, I guess before then in WWF, as it would have been between Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
Yep. They used to two-sweet each other. That was their thing.
Yeah, and that's their argument. But a lot of people have pointed out that it just won't hold up in court.
No, but then they've not. As Dave Meltzer wrote in the, I think he's saying on Twitter, or he might have said on the Wrestling Observer boards, they're not doing this to win a court battle. They don't want this to go to court. They're doing this essentially. They're doing it to make a point. They're doing it to just, it's a dick measuring contest, and they're showing that theirs is bigger and that they have the power to kind of stop this thing. They're doing it out of spite, as actually out of trying to get them to stop doing it. Yeah,
WWE have an enormous dick, and everyone else has just got one dick.
Yeah,
they've got one tiny dick.
They just have indie-sized dicks, which are so much smaller in comparison in the world of WWE.
I mean, the joke is, going by what I've heard about steroid use, that's not the case for the WWE dick.
So it really is just like it's a cease and desist for the sake of doing a cease and desist. It's just to try and make a bit of noise. The funniest thing I thought from this was the Young Bucks have always been making a joke about how they were waiting for cease and desist letters. That was always been their running gag.
Yeah, because it stems off Cody Rhodes not being able to use the Rhodes name outside of WWE.
Yeah, so they always been saying, we've been waiting for our cease and desist letters, and now they've got one, so they worked themselves into a shoot.
Yeah, brother.
Mark Brothers.
Yeah, so what they've... Young Bucks have behaved very admirably around this. I think they realise there's no point even trying to challenge this because WWE would just take loads of time.
Just CM Punk it. Yeah. Just stretching these things out and just making you spend all this sort of money, needlessly spending all this money.
If you want to find out the exact legal tactic WWE are using, go back a couple of weeks ago to Vince McMahon versus Kevin Owens in that segment, and Kevin Owens says, I'm a billionaire. And
Vince McMahon says that.
Sorry, yeah, Vince McMahon says, I'm a billionaire, and Kevin Owens, if you try and sue me, the only B next to your name will be bankrupt, because effectively I can string this out forever, legal costs will cripple you. I speculated at the time that was a direct jab at CM Punk, because the court cases for that particular lawsuit have been elevated just the week before. So yeah, unfortunately, Young Bucks, although they're morally right, especially because they've been using the Young Bucks... the Too Sweet signal before 2015 when it was trademarked.
Exactly.
Apparently that's the first thing a court would do, was say, well, did you use it before it was trademarked?
Yeah.
Everyone says yes, by quite some time.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, that's it. That was the thing, is because they're not suing ROH, because you couldn't sue ROH, because ROH could just say, mate, we did it before 2015, ergo the case is thrown out. But they can challenge the Young Bucks because they haven't got the money behind them.
Well, that's it. Yeah, Ring of Honor, weirdly, is actually kind of a bigger company than WWE, because Sinclair Broadcasting Group, which owns Ring of Honor, is absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
But what the Young Bucks have done is they've put up their Too Sweet ring tights that they can no longer use, and they put that up for charity. I think it's well over $1,000 now that's going for. And they've brought out a T-shirt that says 2SW, and then 2, where you would put the swear word symbols, and then T, which a lot of people have tweeted to us. That looks like Too Swaft.
It does look a little bit like Too Swaft, doesn't it? So I mean,
That's our first T-shirt. Sure.
I got a lot of tweets about when that T-shirt came out. I'm sure you were among them as well.
I was too busy talking to my girl Naya. I didn't see any of your petty tweets. I was just
I didn't have any
verified accounts.
You little blue ticks just hanging out together.
I only reply to people with blue ticks. She's DMing me again.
Oh, of course she is.
Phone's vibrating. Damn it, Jax.
But yeah, perhaps that could be our first T-shirt is Too Swaft with the hand symbol, and then we can trademark that so we can say that we got there first.
Well, I actually not that they saw it, but I tweeted the Young Bucks. Well, why not do a 3-sweet? 1, 2, 3 sweet, and with that you would do that, so you would only knock. And for podcast listeners, I'm holding my middle finger to my thumb only, and the other 3 are up. Yeah, and someone pointed out, no, you've got it the wrong way round, and they put their ring finger on the thumb.
Yeah,
and I looked at that and I thought, oh yeah, that could be no, wait, that's the bad thing, because that is a that is a sexual hand gesture. Quite, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I missed a bullet there. Oh my God. I would have opened myself up to so much, Nia would not talk to me if I had done
You
that.
missed a Bullets Club.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice. I think, what's your closing thoughts on Young Bucks and all this?
It's just a very WWE thing to do. Triple H is a very proud man of the things that he
Do
created.
you think it's a Triple H thing then?
It seems like he's a very proud man of the things that he created, and he's very protective of DX and all that sort of gubbins. You know, there's a reason why every Attitude Era documentary or DVD that comes out is just mostly focused on DX, because that's Triple H's argument, that he was the architect of the Attitude Era and that he essentially created it, and it had nothing to do with Rock and Austin. It was all him.
And it was that moment when DX tried to invade WCW. That was the moment the war turned.
That was absolutely,
no, it wasn't. Like, it didn't even. It was just a little bit. It was a fun bit.
I was going to say in the last documentary I think they did, the one where they do the Sgt. Pepper cover. There's a line in there where they essentially say the war started at that invasion, but it also ended at that invasion as well. Like, that was the beginning and the end of the invasion.
Yeah, there's
the Monday Night War.
a lot of people have pointed out the absolutely astounding hypocrisy of WWE. Not just the pettiness, not just the pettiness.
Just stuns me.
Because they're, like you said, they did the same thing to WCW back in the day. This was obviously a lot more. This was far better natured, and they're letting Matt Hardy do the delete chants. Like, that's a hand gesture. I guess he's not saying delete with it. That's how I get around it. Okay. But my feeling is on this, and you say Triple H is a petty man because of things he's created. I think it could be more because the Young Bucks were the ones that got away. The Young Bucks...
100%, that's it, yeah.
The Young Bucks are always like, we're not going to go to NXT. We can make far more money outside. It was quite a public thing, I think about 2 years ago, when they rejected a deal, I think. I'm getting this all muddled up. And there was like a Twitter back and forth. And they even, they did a few quite obvious jabs at them on commentary on WWE programs.
Yes.
Yeah.
They started to say Dolph Ziggler started having a super kick party. The Usos were doing it because the Usos started using the super kick a lot, and they used to scream "super kick party" on commentary as a way to say, like, "Ha, we don't need you and your super kicks. We'll have our own super kick party with Dolph Ziggler and the Usos."
So Triple H is there thinking, I am king of the indies. I am bringing all the indie people in. Everyone bows down to me. Prince Devitt came here. Kevin Steen, Chris Hero.
Kenta.
And Kenta, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yep. Cole's just come over.
Yeah, I want me the Young Bucks now. The Young Bucks, everyone say they're the hottest act in independent wrestling. And the Young Bucks like, nah, I'm good, thanks for making loads of money outside. And we don't want to have all your creative restrictions.
It was a really interesting point because there's a lot of people who don't like the Young Bucks, and I can see why people don't like the Young Bucks, because they're very abrasive. People can just find them very annoying. They have essentially gotten themselves over by doing catchphrases that someone else came up with 20 years ago. Whatever your feelings on them are, that's not my opinion. That's just what some people think. Dave Meltzer is a huge advocate for the Young Bucks. He absolutely loves them. And when people say, like, why do you love them so much? Because one of their finishing moves is named after him, the Meltzer Driver. And people are like, why do you like them so much? And he essentially has argued that what the Young Bucks have done is what every wrestler will be doing in 10 years' time, and just no one's realised it yet, which is they've done what some wrestlers have tried to do in WWE. It's what Zack Ryder tried to do. Was it like 3 or 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, with the True Long Island story, of trying to get themselves over using social media, and WWE kind of squashed that down. The Young Bucks got themselves over through social media by using Facebook, using Twitter, using YouTube, and created this following where now they can just get bookings all around the world because they're the Young Bucks. They're the most talked about tag team in all of in all of professional wrestling, really. And as they've all done, that's all the hype they built themselves using social media. And Dave's right in that every wrestler will be trying to do this in the next 10 years, where they'll just get their bookings through the buzz they've created themselves.
Yeah, totally. And they're a fantastic team.
So good.
Like, their actual matches are so much fun. If you're a fan of traditional paced psychology and selling, I guess you can have an argument where it isn't. But for me, and I am a fan of traditional, well-paced and selling and stuff, and I think they do it in their matches, but they have so much stuff on top of it that people sometimes don't see the actual solid fundamentals that are going on underneath.
I agree.
But yes, we are big Young Bucks fans. Other news, we've got... do you want to take this one away? Because you did the WrestleTalk news episode on this.
I certainly did. So this was something that had been talked about. Apparently has been in talk since as early as July this year.
I think further ago.
Because I thought they were going to do it this year, in all fairness. But Meltzer brought it up again in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that WWE next year are looking to do their first ever female Royal Rumble, a women's wrestling Royal Rumble. So the Rumble next year, we're going to have the 30 female Rumble and we'll have the 30 man Rumble.
They never said 30.
No, but I said on the episode that you could quite easily do 30. Because you've got, at the moment, 19 female wrestlers between both brands, which I know that number seems huge. I was surprised at it myself because it doesn't feel like there are 19 women wrestlers in WWE overall, but there are. But that does include things like Summer Rae and Paige, who are... Well, Paige is returning soon, apparently.
They're both medically cleared.
Yep, and Summer Rae should be back at some point soon to do whatever it is that Summer Rae does. And so you've got 19 there, and then you've got women you can bring up from NXT, not as main roster debuts, but just be like, hey, oh my god, it's Peyton Royce from NXT, she's entered into this. And then you can do the returning faces, comedy characters, things like that. I made a joke about Santina Marella when we did the news episode.
That would be great.
Someone suggested I should have put Wonder Ollie in that instead. And I was like, that's a much better joke. I wish I'd have thought of that myself. But, you can easily fill up a 30-woman Rumble. And I think that if you are going to do a Women's Royal Rumble, it has to be 30. It can't be anything less, because what you don't want to do is say that, well, the men, that's 30, but the women, that's 20. That's just a much lesser version of it.
I disagree. I think... So I'm not... for these, I never thought because Hell in a Cell, Money in the Bank, I would prefer those pay-per-views just have one titular gimmick match. So Hell in a Cell in a few weeks' time would just be... You could just have one of those. Money in the Bank now only has one ladder match.
That's two now, though, because you have the women's and you have the men.
Oh, yeah, now it has the women's as well. But that was 5 rather than 7.
Yeah, but there was only 5
and
in the
won by
men's.
James Ellsworth.
Yeah. Was there only 5 in the men's one?
No,
I honestly can't remember who was in it.
So the idea of having 2 30-person rumbles on the same show, which are, what's that, like an hour-long, 45-minute to an hour-long match each, there's only so many spots you can take in a night, and I would prefer just to make each one feel better. I think to make that happen, you don't have them at equal footing on a numbers standpoint. I would prefer a 15 to 20 woman rumble, so all the people who are going in are pretty big, and you get a few fun surprises as well, and then you do the 30-man Royal Rumble for the main event.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an argument for it. I really like Royal Rumbles.
I love Royal Rumbles too, and especially for surprises, because one of the rumoured names that Dave Meltzer said that's talks for coming back is Caitlyn.
Now, it's funny. We talked about this last week, I think, when we were talking about this news story. I was watching WWE when Caitlyn was wrestling, and when she was champion. I can't tell you a single thing about her. I can't tell you a single feud she had. I can't tell you a match that she had. I can't tell you when she won her title or what she did. I remember literally nothing about her. But then assumed, she must have been wrestling in that dark period when I wasn't watching, like 2004 and 2005. But no, it was like 2000. You said 2013?
It was 2010 to 2014, maybe
2014.
2014.
I was well watching by that point. Why don't I remember a single thing about her?
This is because when you said that, you were like, "So when did she wrestle?" I was like pretty relatively recently. It's not like
it's in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, but I'm a big Caitlyn fan. Always was. Big fan of her since. not in the hack thing. No, I just thought she was very pretty always. Because the reason I bring this up is because one of the stories, one of the former WWE writers, Kevin Eck, once told a story where he pitched a sort of a new faction with Cody and Damian Sandow and Caitlyn to be this trio, and maybe it would play in some brotherly feud later on down the line. And Vince McMahon shot it down pretty much and effectively said, Caitlyn is not attractive in the slightest, she's too muscular, blah blah blah, piggy face, whatever. And then when the Bellas came back, I think there was like a backstage skip between one of the Bellas and Cody. And after that, Vince was like, no, we're not doing that story at all. Because if one of the Bellas showed interest in Cody, why would he ever show any interest in Caitlyn? And then ever since then, I was kind of like, oh no, I'm on Team Caitlyn rather than Team Bella.
Yeah.
And I think she's cool.
I mean, she seems cool. I mean, we have the network. Maybe I'll try and find a pay-per-view that she appeared on.
I don't think you're going to find any classic
No,
Caitlyn matches.
but it'd just be nice to be able to see a Caitlyn match because I probably have seen one. I just cannot remember it. Who did she win the title off? Who did she lose it to? Rest my case.
No. And unfortunately, this is one of. I wasn't a fan of the wrestling. I was just a fan of her as a character, and. But she has had a big body transformation recently. Like, if you talk about women who look different to the norm, Charlotte's more muscular. Nia Jax, of course, has her own thing going on. To bring in Caitlyn with the way she looks now, she's like bodybuilding enormous.
She'd be absolutely awesome because she looks great, and I think that'd be really good because what you want from a women's division, similar to the man's division, is a wide range of body types. You want big, you want small, you want large, you want skinny. You need all of those in there. That's why I'm a big fan of people like Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe, because they just look different to a Randy Orton or to a Brock Lesnar or to a John Cena. They all have like different body types in there, and that makes it more exciting to watch. And I think the same needs to be for the women. It's why one of the reasons I'm a big actually a bit of a mark for Nia Jax. I'm coming up. She's come along leaps and bounds. And not just because you're now Bezzy
Well,
Mace.
yeah, should I? I mean, I'm not going to jeopardise my friendship with Nia.
No.
I'm not going to introduce you.
No. But I was listening to her, actually, it's funny enough, I was listening to her podcast with Jericho last week. I'm going through my big, do you know what, I've got like 100 odd podcasts that I've not caught up on.
Too many podcasts.
It's far too many. I'm subscribed to like 45 different podcasts, and then they build up week after week, and I'm like, oh no, I need to try and catch up on these. And
some of those post 3 times a week.
No. So I've got to try and catch up on some of these podcasts. I'm actually now up to date on my Talk is Jericho episode. Just finished the Drew McIntyre one, which is a very good episode. And the Nia Jax one was great. She was really, really good on it.
So that's Royal Rumble. The next of the big 4, though, chronologically, is Survivor Series. Now, do you want to try and think what's going to happen? Because usually, by the midway through August last year, we all kind of knew it's going to be Goldberg versus Brock. WWE 2K17 at the time all ties in. That's going to be your main event. And then in the months after, you got a sense of, there's going to be a Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. It was the first year of the brand split. And then they fleshed that out with just every possible division going against each other 5-on-5 with the tags and the women and the men in that fantastic men's match.
So good.
Yeah. But where, like, all the big matches I thought they were setting up for Survivor Series, they've spunked on the B pay-per-views leading up to it. So Lesnar Strowman, Cena Reigns, the Owens and Shane McMahon match in Hell in a Cell, like those all scream Survivor Series to me. But now, I don't know, what do you think we've got?
Well, I mean, I think we're probably going to get our traditional 5-on-5. You do your Raw v SmackDown match where the winner means absolutely nothing. It's a fun match because, I mean, really, what did SmackDown gain by winning last year's Survivor Series?
Yeah.
That's always been the problem. It's like when they used to do the bragging rights pay-per-view, where it's like, oh my god, it's Raw v SmackDown, yeah, and then you're like, cool, but what did they win? What did this lead to? It led to nought.
It should be like the winner of... Yeah, there should be something at stake.
Yeah, like first pick in the draft next time it comes round, or like you get more stakes and something like that. Just anything really. But maybe they'll actually do that this year. Maybe they'll put something on the line. Maybe that's what they'll build the pay-per-view around. But there's the news. Is there any news coming up, like on if anyone's coming back, or like we've got some names we're going to be getting? Yeah,
originally it looked like everyone was reporting Cena isn't going to be around because he's shooting the Bumblebee movie. Transformers spin-off. Someone said, God, Ollie says that a lot.
It's because you have to.
I have to.
I guarantee you that movie will be called Transformers Bumblebee by the time it's released.
Yeah. And so originally he was reported as missing Survivor Series. He's not going to come back till Royal Rumble.
Some people thought Mania.
Yeah, even further, especially after how No Mercy ended with his match. And Meltzer said last week that Cena is booked for Survivor Series now. So that's the thing that's happening. And then this morning on Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer also said, and Lesnar's booked as well. And that he was not meant to be back until who knows when.
WrestleMania again, I think. They think he was going to sort of like at least the Royal Rumble leading into Mania.
Yeah, like road to WrestleMania time. So now we've got both Cena and Lesnar there. Maybe that's... I never thought of that. Maybe a Cena-Lesnar match.
Do you know what I think?
Lesnar goes over Cena.
Actually, I think if I were fantasy booking this, I would then have it as you are going to do this Raw versus SmackDown match, but it's the teams vying for John Cena because he's that free agent that can bounce between it. So you then have Cena appearing on both Raw and SmackDown, get those rating bumps up, and then you have both teams trying to get Cena to join them.
See, logistically, it seems to me that Cena is only back for maybe a week before Survivor Series and then Survivor Series.
Yeah, but even that,
you can't build anything.
But you can still build that, like in terms of storyline without Cena. You could do that sort of thing. Maybe you just do it as backstage vignettes. Just goes to his place and record some stuff there. There are sort of ways around that, and then you can then use that Survivor Series match to build on whoever Cena's going to face at the Rumble or at WrestleMania. Perhaps he'll finally join SmackDown, and then a member of the SmackDown crew turns on him and hits a move, and Cena is pinned, and that sends Cena off packing for a while. And then Cena can come back and be like, "You screwed me at Survivor Series. Now let's have a fight, you and I."
If I'm on Team SmackDown, I know you want higher ratings, but in a kayfabe wrestler point of view, I don't want Cena on my brand. I want an easy path to the championship, especially if you're like, Mickey James is on Raw. I was trying to remember who he's had affairs with.
Oh, okay. So I think that could certainly be work. And then in terms of opponents for Lesnar, Balor cut the promo on Raw last week about how he's going for the Universal Championship now. So I wonder if that's his next stage.
Well, it's obviously 4 more weeks of Bray Wyatt, and then maybe he moves on to Lesnar.
Do you know, was it you that said this to me, or it was some podcast I was listening to that said that the when Bray sings the...
This was me.
Was it you that says that you got the whole world? It's like a respect thing.
Yeah, like you beat me, fair play. Nice one.
As opposed to like, we are continuing this feud.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God it was you. I really hope that's the case, because I don't think we need to see much more of that feud.
But the announcers didn't play it up at all.
No.
And they really needed to,
Or,
if that was the thing.
Are they going to form a tag team now?
What? Okay, well if we really went fantasy booking crazy, there are loads of great factions that you can hodgepodge together into a Survivor Series match. You could have Bray getting the team back together of Luke, Eric, Braun, I know, just bear with me, so it's them 4, versus AJ, Finn, and Gallows and Anderson.
Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah, I'd happily watch that.
And Shane McMahon would probably be on one of those teams as well. He'd find a way.
He always does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're going to continue the Wyatt thing, maybe at Survivor Series you do it as a triple threat. You do Wyatt, Balor, and Brock.
Why? Oh, I see. Yeah. I guess you could do that.
And that actually that shakes up the Brock formula, and that adds a little bit more into it of just, he doesn't have to be pinned to lose, which they did at the at SummerSlam even. But it just adds, because you've now got the Balor and Wyatt thing in there. That'd be quite interesting.
That could be good. And I think I've heard Samoa Joe versus Braun Strowman. That's what Wrestling News World is saying. So I don't know if they're gonna do that, because you've got TLC before you've got Survivor Series.
Oh, of course you have, yeah.
The Raw pay-per-view. So that might be at TLC. Of course, Asuka's going to be around. The Shield are going to be reuniting. I think, a Shield match makes sense at Survivor Series.
So there are big matches that you can do.
Matches, but they're not like mega drawing matches. You haven't got... Brock Goldberg last year.
Yeah, it depends.
That's another level.
It depends on who you have the Shield facing, because if it's the Miz Taraj, then that doesn't exactly feel like a big money drawing thing. But if you had, say, the Shield versus, I don't know, the Club.
Yeah.
Like if you had it as a Finn, Gallows, and Anderson, that then feels like that's a big money thing.
Definitely. The only one we haven't mentioned that's been speculated on for ages, but no one seems to know where it is. They've definitely been building towards it, is the 4 MMA horsewomen of Ronda Rousey, Jessamine Duke.
See, I've been called up on this because people say that I say the name wrong.
Oh, how do you say it?
Well, I say Duke as well, because we are British and it is Duke. But apparently, because it's an American thing, it's Duke.
Duke?
Yeah.
The Dukes of Hazzard?
Well, absolutely. Yeah,
really?
We would say the Dukes of Hazzard, as I always have, but the Americans would say the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, never knew. Jessamine Duke, then, Marina Shafir, and Shayna Baszler.
Yes.
So those are the MMA 4 horsewomen, and they would take on Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch.
The forgotten four horsewomen.
Yeah. That to me, that's your biggest money draw from a mainstream perspective, because you've got the star power of Rousey there.
Yeah, and if rumours are to be believed, we're building up towards a Charlotte versus Rousey match at WrestleMania. If Charlotte's going to win the title from Natalya at Hell in a Cell in a few weeks' time, and then she'll keep that title up until WrestleMania, and then have that match with Ronda there. So you could do, building up towards WrestleMania, rather than doing the 4-on-4 four horsewomen versus four horsewomen, you could do Rousey and Charlotte at WrestleMania, and then on the undercard, the other three versus the other three. Artificially extend this out.
If they get the horsewomen as a 4-on-4 for Survivor Series, though, I think that's your main event.
That is a main event, absolutely. Yeah.
And that, like, from a mainstream press and positive press and all the stuff they've done with the women's revolution and how Stephanie McMahon founded women's wrestling.
No, the Bellas did.
And the Bellas did, yeah. They helped her out. They trained her. Mae Young was, I don't know, she built the school.
Well, she wrestled for 100 years. I think that's the official WWE story.
Minimum.
Minimum.
Yeah,
and she definitely didn't hustle men and beat them up in hotel rooms.
To have those 8 women in the main event as one of your big 4 as well. The only time the women main evented a pay-per-view before was Hell in a Cell, funnily enough, around the same time last year with Sasha Banks and Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And they had
their never-ending feud.
Yeah. I miss those days, actually. Like when you miss crap stuff that you were living through.
That was my match, like 10 of 12, I think, in terms of that feud.
And it goes back every 2 months.
Yeah.
Usually when Sasha Banks has to defend it.
Or when Charlotte's on pay-per-view.
And finally, we've got a very small bag. We've got a small bag today, a mail bag, from Phil Stopford, who's got in touch via Patreon. This is a long one.
It's one of our $50 backers.
Yeah.
His question gets fast-tracked. Was meant to be last week, but it's sort of slipped through the gaps. It's an admin error on my part. I thought we'd already done a Stopford question. Apologies.
To Phil Stopford now. Britain's next top model, Phil Stopford, is his full wrestling nickname. I've undertaken the task of watching every WWE pay-per-view ever that was written in capitals, starting from WrestleMania 1 in 1985. By the second pay-per-view main event, Paul Orndorff had turned face and was insanely over with the crowd at the time. It got me thinking as to why he was never given a run as world champion in any company. So, with all the awful champions that have been dumped on us now by the WWE, way before they were ready and no one cared about them, Jack Swagger for example, who do you both feel should have been given a run with their company's world title because they were super over, either loved or hated? Any time period, any company. Also, side note, the crowd at WrestleMania 1 and a few other events were happily chanting Bull S-word to the screwy finishes of some of the matches. Never noticed that from old pay-per-views.
Yeah, crowds have always been rowdy at wrestling events.
You did this, didn't you? You watched every WWE pay-per-view.
I certainly did. Way back when. It feels like a long time ago I started that journey.
Have you finished? Where are you at?
I don't know. I think I might have given up at one point, you know. I think I got...
Because you're watching Star Trek Next Gen now.
Star Trek Next Gen.
Probably longer.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm doing that 40-episode thing where you only watch the key episodes and you essentially get everything you need to know from Star Trek The Next Generation.
For about 20% of the overall output.
Yeah. I think I got to a period I was definitely mid... brand splits first time round. So I think Punk had just got into ECW. I think that's more or less where I got to, but then like other things got in the way and I started working here and wedding and stuff like that. Yeah, so I haven't had time to kind of like continue my journey, which is a shame because I went through a bloody rough patch of watching some ghastly pay-per-views, but I kind of see like a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. I think that things appear like they're going to get better soon.
Yeah, when the Shield... Oh, no, it's still
a few years off yet, mate. And there's like 18 pay-per-views a year.
Tell us when you lose interest, Phil. And you'll probably get... It's very respectable, however far.
Yeah, I'll be honest, you'll probably get very bored around the new generation periods. There was a reason why no one was watching.
So, people who were never made champion for their company... I've written down Roddy Piper. This was not... So I didn't live through this period. I only know stuff in retrospect, but that's always the big name that's thrown around as these. So I thought we'd better say that to get out of the way.
Yeah, Roddy is always the classic example given. Like, he had multiple chances. He had multiple chances in WCW as well, and I don't think he was ever champion there. Although it's hilarious because he won a match against Hogan. It's a bit sketchy in my memory here, but I'm pretty sure he won a match against Hogan at Starrcade with the sleeper, won clean, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, he's world champion now!" But apparently, that match was not a world championship match, even though it was billed in like the run up to it as a world championship match, and then this is the actual match itself.
That is
wasn't a world championship match.
But someone else from that era who I've written down here is Jake Roberts.
Yeah, the Snake, absolutely. Like, so over, Jake the Snake. And such a great wrestler as well.
And the DDT was super over. Before that was just a transitioning move.
DDT.
So the problem with this is that era, back in the 80s and very early 90s, very few people, or in fact, all of wrestling before that time, before the early 90s, people who held the championship were a very rare breed. And that's like the example. You got Roddy Piper, Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect. None of those ever held the top title because you just have your top 2 or 3 guys trade the belt and they would have very lengthy runs. Whereas, as you alluded to in your email, nowadays it's harder to find these people who have been ignored because mostly, not everyone, because Cesaro has yet to win a title, but like there was the period of Sheamus and Jack Swagger where they were just giving out world titles.
And I think that's a lot of people now, a lot of wrestling fans now seem to think that that's the norm because we get this a lot with people like, oh, he should have had a world title. It's the you deserve it thing. They should have been world champion by this point because they deserve it. We get a lot of messages asking why there isn't a SmackDown, why there isn't a women's tag team division because it would give the women something to do. And I'm like, we don't need to give them a belt for something to do. They can just feud amongst themselves while they're not fighting for the title. Like, feuds don't have to be over belts all the time. You can just have feuds, and you don't need to. Not everyone has to be a champion.
And fewer titles mean those titles
mean
so much more.
Yeah.
You sort of shortchange future importance by either having too many titles or titles that are handed around a lot.
Yeah. Look at the European and the Hardcore Championship. Like, the Hardcore Championship.
The European Championship.
I mean, like, it just changed hands willy-nilly.
But
like,
that was the gimmick. The hardcore one was fun.
The hardcore one eventually became just a bit of a gimmick, but it's not like you name me a memorable hardcore title run, exception of Crash Hartley. But Crash held it for a long time.
In terms of present day people, I have written down Wade Barrett.
Yeah,
in WWE,
particularly around that Nexus era. I'm still amazed to this day that he was never WWE champion around that point.
Because he could have credibly, they were so over. It was such a impactful angle that if they won the SummerSlam match, and then he beat Cena at the next big pay-per-view.
It was Randy. Randy was champion.
Was it Randy?
Yeah.
He could have got it, and I don't think anyone would have felt like the Sheamus Jack Swagger thing. Oh, like you've been given this very early. Because Sheamus and Jack Swagger, that was almost within a couple of months within each other.
Sheamus was the gimmick. That it was like he was the rookie. I think John Cena was like, I'm going to give a championship match to someone who's never had a championship match. Sheamus won it and then won the title. Didn't really win the title. He sort of pushed Cena through a table. It was
a table match, yeah. And
Cena essentially fell through it.
But how Wade Barrett, he could have genuinely just gone into that role.
If he'd have won the championship at whichever pay-per-view it was when Cena was the referee, and won the championship, then it would have been the most. I wouldn't have gone like, that's too early to put the belt on him, because at that point it felt like he should have been champion. Especially the night after that, Miz cashed in and won the championship, and Miz was not at that right. He was not at the level to be a WWE champion at that point. I mean, to be honest, he wasn't a world like WWE championship material by the time he got to bloody WrestleMania when he was defending against John Cena.
And Barrett, he just carried himself like a star as well. He felt like a main eventer immediatly.
Yeah.
Wade would be my pick.
Absolutely. I mean, I've written down Mr. Perfect in my list because I'm a big mark for Mr. Perfect, and I always felt regardless, when he went to WCW, he probably could have had a bit of a championship run there. Speaking of WCW, and actually early WWF, Scott Hall. Razor Ramon, because Razor was so over in WWF, and then he was probably even more over. In fact, he was more over when he went to WCW as part of the NWA. Considering that Hall and Nash both got title runs out of the NWA, Scott Hall never did. He had lots of championship matches.
I mean, Hogan.
What did I say? Oh, Hall Nash. Yeah, Hogan and Nash. Do apologise. But Hall never did, and that's a real shame because Hall was such a great talent. I know he had his demons in his later years in WCW, but in his earlier run, absolutely. Like, if he'd have held the world title, you wouldn't have gone like, Scott Hall, are you kidding? Absolutely, because he was over like Rover.
But in that era, like, he was such a solid intercontinental star. Like, that's the level.
But he should have been so much more than that. And that's kind of like that sort of WCW glass ceiling thing that they always had. That's why guys like Benoit and Jericho and Eddie never got any further than they did, because they just sort of pigeonholed him. In all fairness, is what WWE do now.
Yeah.
Like, there are only a handful of people that you're like, well, they're credible main event talents now.
Jinder Mahal.
Because they are essentially just said, like, these lads here are your main eventers, and then everyone else is just undercard.
You've got some TNA names written down here.
I certainly have, yeah. This harkens back
to hear.
This harkens back to my era of TNA, which was like 2004 till about 2010. I think that's when I was super into TNA. But Hernandez, at one point when he was Super Mex, when he'd kind of split away from LAX and he had a singles run, he was so over when he was in LAX, and then it was like just as over when he got out of it. But they just kept putting him in these naff feuds with like Matt Morgan and Crimson and all these like, jabronis that just really like just kept pegging him down. And after a while, it was just like, yeah, no, Hernandez is like, he just felt like he was going to be a main eventer. The same with Chris Harris. Of the two, of America's Most Wanted, Chris Harris was the one who felt like he was destined to be a main eventer. And he really should have been. He had like a great series with Christian, after I think when Christian wasn't champion at that point. And it was like, this is it. This is Harris's ascension into the main event. Then he left and he went to TNA, went to WWE, and Bruce Pritchard tells the story on Something to Wrestle With. He goes like, yeah, we were expecting the Chris Harris that was in TNA that was going to be a main eventer, and we got Braden Walker. He was a very out of shape guy, couldn't cut a promo. Do you know the infamous Knock Knock Who's There promo from Braden Walker? His first promo he had in WWE.
Yeah, I think there's a funny YouTube video.
Yeah, so the 3-disc anthology. Yeah,
the best of.
The best of, yeah. That apparently took them all day to film, and of like 4 different producers, because no one could get him to deliver lines correctly, and Vince had to get involved.
Oh wow!
And that's essentially that just killed his WWE career dead. But Chris Harris in TNA in particular felt like that. And the other one from TNA is Christopher Daniels, the Fallen Angel.
He's sort of like the only one of that trio of Samoa Joe and AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels that was the Unbreakable.
Yeah, the Unbreakable 2005.
Famous, 3-way match that hasn't. I mean, I know he was Ring of Honor champion, but that almost was just like a token, and a really, really well done, nice, feel good, but it was a token championship run for the 15th anniversary show for Ring of Honor earlier this year. But other than that, he hasn't held any major promotion top titles.
And he was over to a point in TNA when he was feuding with AJ Styles over the TNA championship. But they never pulled the trigger on him. He's just always seemed to be like, Christopher Daniels has always been like, you're AJ Styles level, but just not quite AJ Styles level. So you're just slightly underneath him, and therefore we can't give you the championship, which is a real shame, because I think TNA in particular should have been a place where he could have won the world title, and it really wouldn't have like damaged the title or anything like that.
Well, my TNA pick was someone who I guess kind of looks quite similar at the time, and that was Desmond Wolfe, who is Nigel McGuinness.
A man killed by the Hogan Bischoff era.
Yeah.
Wasn't he just?
So he came in and he immediately went in a feud with Kurt Angle. They had one of my favourite 3-match series of all time.
So good.
We talk about it a fair bit. That's how good it was. And then like he just fizzled out. And there were health complications and medical problems around this. Concussions and whatnot. But just like how Wade Barrett came in and he was immediately felt like a main eventer, Kurt Angle did such a good job of putting over McGuinness, and McGuinness is such a good wrestler himself.
Absolutely, but as soon as Hogan and Bischoff came in and they just didn't like him, they saw Abyss as the guy, and they wanted to strap the... Because Hogan even called Abyss the company's John Cena. He's going to be the guy that's going to take this company forward into the new next 10 years.
I mean, I like Abyss.
But remember, he gave him his Hall of Fame ring. It was like Green Lantern.
Well, that's all we've got time for today, so please click the videos that have just appeared over Luke's head to catch up with the latest WrestleRamble or WrestleTalk news. Support this channel on Patreon, support WrestleTalk on Patreon, subscribe to the channel, and subscribe to this podcast on your chosen podcast provider. This has been Luke Owen, I've been Oli Davis, and that was Rambling.